डबल क्लिक कीजिए कहीं पे भी पहले, ठीक है। स्पीकर ऑन कीजिए, आवाज इसमें।
It's me, and he'll be taking over formally. Good morning, sir. Professor Vijay Singh ji. Pranam, sir. आप सर म्यूट पे हैं. You are on mute.
Now I am.
Yes. Now you are audible now. Yes.
Audible.
Nice to see you,
Okay.
sir.
So it is great that you are maintaining the schedules of lectures, lectures.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All
You can
thanks
also
to
see
you.
Sudhanshu Shekhar, sir. You have also joined. Nice to see you. So this is the.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, sir.
विजय सर, आई एम शंभू कुमार.
नमस्कार नमस्कार समूह.
हाँ, मैं शंभू कुमार बोल रहा हूँ सर, पहचाने.
नमस्कार.
नमस्कार सर.
चलिए, अच्छा है. एक ऑनलाइन लेक्चर चल रहा है.
इधर से क्या है उसमें, तो विंडो प्लस अच्छा, एक मिनट सर, पहले तो हमको ये दिखाइए कि इस पे अभी तक क्या
शिफ्ट कमांड एंट्री ये ओपन कीजिए, बढ़ाइए.
इस पे अभी तक चल रहा है, स्टार्ट हो गया. स्लो हो गया आपका सिस्टम, बड़ा कीजिए ना, मैक्सिमाइज कीजिए, डबल क्लिक कीजिए बस, ठीक है. स्क्रीनशॉट लीजिए.
शिफ्ट कमांड एंट्री.
रुको, पहले सबको सेट होने दीजिए. जी
आप स्टार्ट कर रहा है.
एक बार यूट्यूब पे से देख लीजिए तो क्या है.
शिफ्ट कमांड 3.
Good morning, everyone, and dear students. Now, formally, we are going to start the 6th Platinum Jubilee lecture. We are organizing since last August 2021, and we are very happy that many of the students of this department and also alumni of this department are here with us to listen to a very, very useful presentation which we are going to have. And आप सबों को याद होगा कि हम लोगों ने तय किया कि प्रत्येक माह हम लोग प्लैटिनम जुबली लेक्चर सीरीज आयोजित करेंगे, और ये जो लेक्चर सीरीज होगा उसके जो राइटअप्स होंगे हम लोग वी आर गोइंग टू इंक्लूड इन द सोवेनियर which we are going to publish under the Platinum Jubilee celebration of our department. So till now we had presentations from various branches of geology, and today, for the sake of students, Deepak Srivastava sir has selected a very interesting and relevant topic. Climate change is being discussed everywhere globally, and the agriculture phenomenon, the state of Bihar is rich in agriculture. We have a fertile landscape. So one very important aspect which he'll be going to discuss with the participants. हम लोग तो सर को पिछले कई वर्षों से जानते हैं, but the undergraduate and postgraduate students of this department, we must know the very significant achievements of Deepak Srivastava sir. He is alumnus of this department. He had his undergraduate BSc Geology honors from Patna University, and then he was selected to pursue MTech from IIT Roorkee, and he has also done courses from Indian Institute of Science Bangalore and also DASAG Switzerland, and having experience in the field of earth science for more than 3 decades, around 4 decades, I must say. He has worked in several government, private, and NGOs in senior positions with varied responsibility to his challenging task. He has been on numerous technical and other developmental committees. He has he's having very strong technical background academically and well equipped with the tools of geomatics for the natural resource management and renewable energy sectors. Deepak Srivastava sir has worked closely at national level with the Planning Commission, which is the apex planning body of our country, the NITI Aayog, for developing state plans of science and technology on the other hand, with the international community for developing climate change programs and policies. He has been responsible for numerous developmental projects related to climate change through carbon trading routes. He has been champion in developing innovative projects evidenced by the rural innovation project sponsored to him by NABARD. So, working with multilateral agencies, he has made significant contributions towards climate resilient agriculture development with a focus on food security and livelihood for the rural community. We are very proud that he has won acclaims and also awards for his distinguished services in the field of earth sciences with respect to climate change, rural development, and many other branches. So with this background, हम सभी बहुत सम्मान के साथ अपने महाविद्यालय, अपने विश्वविद्यालय और अपने विभाग के पूर्ववर्ती छात्र दीपक श्रीवास्तव सर को आप सबों के साथ यहाँ पे आमंत्रित करते हैं और स्टूडेंट्स के लिए ये विशेष सत्र रखा गया है और टॉपिक उन्होंने जो सिलेक्ट किया है दैट इज क्लाइमेट चेंज एंड रूरल डेवलपमेंट vis-a-vis entrepreneurial opportunities for earth scientists. So earth science is under very, I can say that it's in transformation stage. Earlier we were confined with the hard rocks, then maybe the hydrocarbons and petroleum sector. But now when globally we are talking about climate change and other issues, water management, agriculture. So this aspect of earth science is also very significant to learn, particularly for the young geologists, the geologists in making, the undergraduate and postgraduate students of our department. So very humbly now, I request Deepak Srivastava sir to please take over and deliberate upon the very interesting topic for all of us. Sir, welcome you all.
Yes. Good morning, everybody. Namaskar. It's heartening to be in the department after decades and to see young, I'll say the budding scientists and entrepreneurs and I'll say the people who will shoulder the responsibilities of future. That's exactly where I would like to talk about. And first of all, let me thank Dr. Atul for creating the right environment and the situation for this Platinum Jubilee programs. And after almost 3 decades, I have visited the department and there's excellent setup and glaze and that I see is really charming. That takes me back. It's very nostalgic. So things are moving in the positive direction. That's really interesting. Let's be very positive about it. I'll start with my presentation, focusing on the topic that I'm supposed to be talking with you.
ए भावुक, उनका भी म्यूट हो गया।
Sir, you are unmute, sir. Sir, our volume is not coming.
sir.
Please unmute. Voice is not coming.
आवाज नहीं आ रही है सर.
Please unmute.
Yeah, is it okay now?
Yes,
sir.
now it's okay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So I'll make my presentation bilingual. हम लोग एक normal, it's not very formal way of talking, so but I'll make a small presentation and having put forward all my points. आप ये देखें मैं क्या कहना चाह रहा हूँ, खास करके students के लिए. And at the end of my presentation, I'll definitely expect an interaction with you. And then we can have a discussion. I'll be happy to take the questions once I have finished my presentation. So if I can go to the next one. I dedicate my presentation to my father, Dr. Deepak Srivastava, who happens to be the first gold medalist from the first batch of this department. That was when the department was established in 1946. So I dedicate all my knowledge and all achievements that I have in my life to him. And of course, he had his own glorious career and a very significant one. I'm sure the older generation and this alumni must be aware of it. But for the younger generation, I've just put it here so that you are aware of the alumni of this department as well from the first batch. And I hope we are able, as a younger alumni and the next generation, would be able to carry forward the torch. I'll be talking to you basically on two domains. एक तो मैं आपसे क्लाइमेट चेंज के बारे में बात करूंगा और दूसरा रूरल डेवलपमेंट के बारे में. और क्लाइमेट चेंज के बारे में जब मैं आपसे बात करूंगा तो I'll be segmenting the whole issues and the thrust और opportunities जो एक अर्थ साइंटिस्ट के लिए होता है मैं उसको इंडिकेट करने की कोशिश करूंगा. Similarly, रूरल डेवलपमेंट के बारे में जब मैं चर्चा करूंगा तो I'll try to identify the issues where as an earth scientist you can come in professionally और एक कैरियर ओपनिंग हो सकती है. तो मैं इन दोनों डोमेन्स के बारे में आपसे डिस्कस करूंगा.
हम मैसेज भी कर दिए कि सभी
जियो साइंटिस्ट को करना क्या होगा. बेसिकली हमारे जो पॉलिसी डिसीजंस हैं, हमारे जो रूरल और एग्रीकल्चर कम्युनिटी है, हमारे जो आइडेंटिफाई करना ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस जिनके साथ हम सर्विसेज प्रोवाइड कर सकें, कोई भी प्रोजेक्ट के बारे में जो उसकी इकोनॉमिक वायबिलिटी है उसको वर्कआउट करना पड़ेगा. सप्लाई चेन मैनेजमेंट होगा, वो देखना पड़ेगा. अब मैं थोड़ी सी और चर्चा करूंगा. Let me list it out. What will be the thrust areas where as a geoscientist you can have specific contributions, and I base all these listings, whether it is optimization of technology, or whether you are talking with the community, or whether you are working out the economic viabilities, or whether you are working on the supply chain management on the production side, or with respect to climate change, or with respect to the production in the rural development, based on not only the textbooks but my life experiences, and I have been charting, the unknown waters, and charting through and navigating in the unknown waters. It gives you a lot of experiences, sometimes good, sometimes it's not very encouraging, but then that's a part of the life. And there's a lot of learning that has come in, and that's exactly the learning that I want to share with you, where you have the challenges and where you have the opportunities. The focus will be on the opportunities, inclusive of the challenges that come into the way of the development process that we go on. When we talk about rural development, it's a vast subject in itself. There are specialized courses being conducted in rural development. Let us not go on to those areas of rural development where we'll be talking about. We'll be talking mainly about the livelihood and the agriculture. And when we talk about the agriculture, it's the farm sector and the non-farm sector. Every time that I'll be talking about rural development and the climate change issues, let us bear in mind that I'll be focusing on the issues where an earth scientist can make an impact, where you can have the career openings, where you have the opportunities as an entrepreneur to develop, and you can really work on those areas to take as a career, as a profession, and your personal developments and career advancements. You see, what happens basically in the rural development, I'll just go back to the previous slide, and when we are talking about the farm and non-farm sector in agriculture and livelihood, the important aspects that come into the play is the geomatics. I hope I don't have to explain what the geomatics would be. Basically, the remote sensing and the GIS and the other issues that will be there, it will be encompassed here. The independent parameters for the management information system, that is again a very critical input for the market development and production management. The next issue is the natural resource management. And no one else other than a geoscientist would be able to contribute significantly in terms of soil, slope, water, and land use. Needless to emphasize on these parameters. I'm just, giving you a cursory glance so that when we have our discussions on these specific areas, maybe at the end of the presentation, we can have an interaction and you can come back. And these would be the elements where, the earth scientists could make a significant impact. I'll be reiterating on these issues. If you're going on the infrastructure and other resource development, if you're using the geomatics, whether you're going for the NRM or whether you are going for any other parameter that would make significant impact, some of the areas which have a very significant contribution that could be identified as the infrastructure and other resources could be the road, water harvesting and structure designs, pumping and irrigation systems, where a geoscientist can have a very significant contribution. I can share many of the examples from my own experiences where probably without an earth scientist, the situations would really not have taken off. Whether it has been the first irrigation commission or the second irrigation commission in Bihar, this was all supported very strongly by the geologists of those periods, and this is a continued system. I remember during my tenure in different agencies, we had a very strong contribution in developing the systems and identifying the issues for the water harvesting structure design and the pumping and the irrigation systems. It's a multidisciplinary team effort, and the theme that is required, it's of course an engineering effort, whether it is the road or the irrigation system or the pumping system. But without the earth scientists, this will really be ruinous if it goes without the efforts and the inputs from the geoscientists. Bear that in mind. I will be reiterating this again and again during the course of my presentation. Greenhouse gas, GHG. सभी लोग जानते हैं कि क्लाइमेट चेंज के बारे में हमें क्या करना है, कैसे करना है, क्या नुकसान हो सकती है, सी वाटर लेवल विल बी राइजिंग. These will be the impacts which will be serious, and we need to really make significant contributions in these dimensions where the greenhouse gas emissions are concerned, where we can contribute in making the assessments. There are standard processes. where a geoscientist can really make significant impact in designing and assessments of the greenhouse gas-based features. And this has got an application in the agriculture sector. For example, if you're going for the polyhouses, where, in Middle East, where you don't have very congenial agroclimatic zones and the ecological setup there, but you still have a lot of agricultural activities going on. That's because of the controlled greenhouse gas situations and under controlled situations and the controlled structures where you can really make significant contributions. And needless to emphasize, the scientist has a significant role to come in and make it feasible, I'll say. Similarly, we have the construction material issues. This is very well known by all geologists, where the construction materials, whether it is from the marble or whether it is from the road construction or any building material that is concerned, the scientists would be have an excellent contributions in these domains. I'm sure now you might be aware that the recent developments where there's a significant shift in the agricultural practices. In the 60s, 70s, there was a significant effort for the green revolution, and we started using with the full government policy supports, going for the inorganic fertilizers and the agricultural systems. Package of practices were developed by the agriculture scientists. Excellent. That was the need of the time at that particular period, where India had to be self-sufficient in terms of food. But now, every development process, that there has its own impacts, its own, I'll say the negative and the positive impacts, both ways you can see. We are now trying to shift from the conventional and the package of practices adopted in the agriculture to organic farming. Now, when we are going for organic farming, understanding the soil, that becomes very important in terms of fertilizers, in terms of nutrients. Now, as a geologist, you can definitely have a very significant role. So, for instance, if you are aware of the perlite and the vermiculite, that has got a very significant nutritional value, and the nutrients there in these minerals can definitely make a substitute and make a big impact in terms of organic farming practices. And this could probably be a significant shift from the traditional, inorganic methods to the organic systems. And this would play a significant role in terms of having the agricultural practices productivity, its impact on health of the, farmers as well as the consumers, and all of us. We depend upon what comes from the agriculture domain, whether it is from the farm sector or from the non-farm sector. And these nutrients and these pesticides would really play a significant role if it becomes a natural process. And here we have abundance of perlite and vermiculite. Who else other than a geologist would be in a better position to advise on this? The availability, processing. So these are the opportunities which is open to you. It's a new domain which is opening up. Interestingly, the vermiculite and the perlite can also be used, in the vertical farming. What happens in and it could be also utilized in the soilless farming. I'm sure you might have heard about the hydroponic systems that is emerging in the vertical farming systems in the urban areas where people want organic, fresh vegetables and fresh fruits and fresh food. So it's the soilless farming that is feasible. You don't have land, doesn't matter. You have a balcony, you have a terrace. Even for the landless laborers, this has become economically viable. We have got many examples. We have put in pilot projects, and we have got an excellent feedback that it is perfectly economically viable. It's very attractive, and with the way the tourism industry is opening up, the hotel industry is coming up, this soilless farming, the organic farming, that has taken up a big quantum jump. And it's none other than a geologist who will be in a better position to really support the system. Who identifies the vermiculite? Who identifies the perlite? How do you go about it? How do you go about the exploitation of the whole process? So, well, these are some of the answers. And if you could do that, what you require is a small common sense and a management skill. and that could always put, you could always develop it through various independent sources also. So that could be one thing where you could really have a very strong intervention. I'll say that, I'll just give an example where we did some experiments and where we were successful using the MIS. As a geologist, we are all trained in, the numerical and the programming methods. We are familiar with the computer systems. We are familiar with the geomatics. We are familiar with remote sensing. We are familiar with the GIS package. So why not the MIS? Now, if you're going with the MIS, that makes it an excellent opportunity. If you are going with the farmer producers, if you are going for the aggregation of the farm sector productions, we have all, haywire systems, in terms of market development for the farm sectors. This could be an organized sector. Government efforts are coming in. NABARD has made an effort, and there are different agencies who are going for the farmer producers. The aggregation for the right at the farm sector and at the non-farm sector, it could be feasible, and we could definitely use the MIS and the geomatics in a big way to really have a very concrete market approach. Now, this is where a professional intervention from a geoscientist would really make a difference. You can definitely go for the crop acreage productions and the yield estimations, and it could have an impact on the minimum support prices. I share you, in fact, there were projects with ISRO and other remote sensing agencies where we had a significant modeling development. We had the analogs. Now it is open in the market. Now these things, in fact, in the practice, theoretically, in the centers of excellence, this is existing, but down to earth, at the entrepreneurial level, interacting with the community, interacting with the farmers, this has not happened. It's time the young people, the young geoscientists come out, take these tools, take these technologies, go down to the, I'll say down to earth, be down to the earth, interact with the farmers, and you have the market in your mutti. ये अब market आपको मिल जाएगी तो और क्या चाहिए? There are corporates will not be working with the farmers. डायरेक्ट नहीं चाहते हैं, कोई नहीं चाहता है कि जाकर के मैं डायरेक्ट फार्मर्स के साथ करूं, because that's not an easy thing. Here is a tool where you can work with the farmers directly. I share my experience. I'm working with 10,000 farmers through farmer producer companies. I have a number of farmer producer companies in Jharkhand and East UP. I'm working with them. I'm supported by different financial institutions. On one end, I have to deal with the 10,000 farmers, and the other end, we have the corporates who are ready to buy the produce. Why not you be the technology facilitator, and you become basically a job creator instead of seeking job. So the best opportunity for the geoscientist would be to become a job creator rather than looking for a job. So I think your training, your knowledge would be a very significant achievement milestone for the development of the society and the country as well. Let me shift from rural development to the climate change perspective. Now, when we talk about climate change perspective, as a geoscientist, it definitely occurred to your mind. We have so much information about the paleoclimates and from the Jurassic, from the Cretaceous. We have so many information. Yes. On the geological time scale, that is very significant. It has a lot of impact. It has a lot of importance. There's no denying that. What we are interested in the climate change is the other aspect. It's not the geological time. We are not talking about hundreds and thousands and millions of years. We are talking about the near real time, rapid, maybe few weeks, maybe month, maybe a decade or few decades. If those impacts are visible, and if those things impact, it's a significant thing that would be impacting our livelihood, our agro-productivity, our survival. For instance, the anthropogenic changes that would happen by 2050. I don't really want to press the alarm bells, but that would be a significant shift from impacting the package of practice in agriculture, impacting the flood domain activities and the protection measures, the entire development process, the entire livelihood,
And let us remember one thing: the majority of the population on this planet has got if we take India as the standard scale, also we have not less than the 70% of the population in the rural area. It's not that the urban population will not be impacted. If you don't have the food security, if you don't have the energy security, what will be happening? Look at the floods that happen. So, geological time scale, I mean, that's a different domain. Human intervention is not feasible. That will happen. Geomorphic processes and other processes, that will be happening. And we are not talking those domains. So we are talking about the rapid impact domain where human intervention is critical. What we do in our day-to-day life, what carbon footprints we leave behind, how much greenhouse gas we emit, that becomes significant, impacting our day-to-day life and impacts our livelihood, makes the day-to-day effects visible. Now that's our concern, and that's the focus where, as a geoscientist, this is an emerging area where you can take up the responsibilities. Absolutely. What is required to be done if we talk about the rapid climate change impacts that is happening as a geoscientist? What you can do? There are two aspects of it. One is the adaptation and the other is the mitigation. Adaptation is for the anthropogenic changes, so for the changes that have already happened or are inevitable, will be happening, you have to learn to live with it. That is adaptation. Mitigation is that arresting, reducing, trying to eliminate, trying to control the greenhouse gas emissions and the negative impacts thereupon. So, the floods in Bihar. This is an example where what has happened, what our interventions in terms of deforestations in the Himalayan regions, in the Tarai area, and our greenhouse gas emissions globally has seriously impacted, the climate temperature regimes of the Pacifics, impacting the monsoons over Bay of Bengal, impacting the precipitation pattern over the Himalayas and on the Indian subcontinent. Now, this can definitely be not reversed, but definitely we can adapt, we can go for certain measures where we can learn to live with it, it is visible. And the deluge of the flood that you see could be minimized, it cannot be eliminated. If we go and settle down into the floodplains, that's not the nature's problem, it's our problem. So we have to learn to live with it. So it has to be a two-pronged approach. One is the adaptation and the mitigation. There are technologies which is available for the greenhouse gas estimations. There are technologies, there are management methods where you can go for the adaptation. Now, as a geoscientist, you can really work on the two domains. For mitigation, you can definitely go and work with academic institutions. There are centers where, centers of excellence where you can definitely work. For example, the renewable energies, for example, with the industrial processings where you can go and work. But as a geoscientist, you can make a significant contribution in terms of adaptation. And you are well equipped. You are well equipped because you know and understand the planet. You have the technologies like the MIS, you have the GIS, and you have the remote sensing technologies. You can monitor the changes that is happening near real time. You can go for the near real time predictions, and definitely adaptation could be a parameter which should attract the attention where a geoscientist has tremendous, possibilities and the potential in terms of making the significant impacts. And I don't share this on a theoretical background. Maybe you do not get it in a textbook, but I share it from a practical experience. At least I'm happy that I'm able to share with the younger generation the potentials that the climate change creates in terms of creation of entrepreneurial and the job opportunities. You have to identify the specific. It may not be feasible for me to put down everything in this one presentation, but at least if I'm successful, if I'm able to trigger the thought process into you, you can definitely come down one-to-one with me and have an interaction. There are numerous sources. There are agencies which are conducting courses. You can do, after your post-graduation with geology, you can definitely diversify, and this is a significant area where you can really make an impact on the system. You know what the geologist can do? We talk about the greenhouse gases. What actually happens? Let us have a small feel of it when I'm talking on what the mitigation or what the adaptation processes would basically be doing, and what as a geologist or as an earth scientist you could really impact and do is, we are by our natural process of development emitting greenhouse gases. What we are doing? We are reducing the carbon pool, availability of the carbon pool into the planet, and we are creating more greenhouse gases impacts on the planet. This changes the temperature regime on the planet, and this changes the pressure regime in temperature and pressure regulated. It changes your precipitation pattern. And therefore you have larger events of cyclones, floods, more intensified floods, and this is where you could play a significant role in the carbon pool assessments, and this is where the significant management interventions come in terms of adaptation and mitigation. होता क्या है कि अगर कार्बन पूल बढ़ाना है तो हमको कार्बन क्रेडिट्स अगर हमको बढ़ानी पड़ेगी, we have to have a project. Now I'll give you a very simple example. अगर कार्बन हमारे soil analysis में अगर कार्बन कंटेंट, अगर कार्बन पूल हमारा यूज कर रहा है, उसको बढ़ाने के लिए क्या करना होगा? Plantation, it sounds very simple that हम plantation करें. It's not only the plantation part of it. We are talking about the carbon. Can we go for the energy plantations? Can we go for the fodder plantations? Can we go for different type of plantation management? There are new techniques. So these are the potential areas where your interventions could come in. And what we have to do is, now I'm giving you a clue that the moment you do such entrepreneurial projects, we can have the benefit of additionality of increasing the carbon pool. You see the red line on the presentation here. Here, if you see this would be under a normal development process. But if your intervention element of adaptation, that solves the problem. Now, for designing such projects, India is under tremendous pressure. We have to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. Industry has got an advantage that they have a certain level of competency, and because of these carbon credits, there are different frameworks under the Climate Change Convention, and there are different protocols where for the high-cost technologies you have a lot of fund flows. Millions and millions of dollars and euros are flowing. We need significantly trained hands who could really manage, do the assessments, develop such projects. If this gives you a hint that there is a possibility of entrepreneurship and job, excellent. I achieved what I've been able to trigger the thought with. The next is, this is the concern. What actually is happening is the shift in the temperature regime, which is impacting the temperature pressure regime, impacting the monsoon, impacting the agriculture productivity. At the grassroots level, what basically it turns out to be impacting the community. The agriculture productivity changes, and the moment that changes, you are talking about, reducing the farm employment. You are talking about, reducing the non-farm sector employment opportunities. Now here you have a significant element of role and contribution through your knowledge, through your practices, that you can really come in, make an intervention with your natural resource management. If you remember in the previous slides, I suggested about water and soil management. That could be a significant thing if you're going for the adaptation process, and if you're able to really take this clues. And under UNFCCC, there are numerous international organizations where you can have tremendous funding for these type of projects. And unfortunately, let me share with you that we have really not been able to
cash the type of projects we should be doing. Adaptation is now being, projects are being funded heavily by the multilateral agencies through the national financial institutions, for instance, NABARD, to the state and the government agencies. There are very few projects. I think there would be definitely some leadership that would be required with experienced people, and that's exactly what I have been discussing in this department also, that we can initiate some process whereby we can pull in all the young brains and maybe we develop some projects which could have the center of excellence in the academic centers, which could support the other agencies. So that would be an opportunity. You can have your independent efforts and orientations as well, and go in for the entrepreneurial development or for specific jobs. And I'll share about the information that what job opportunities and the consultancy opportunities you have in this domain. Well, I'll quickly, share this information with you under the UNFCCC, United Nations Framework for Climate Change, that you have. You have two parts. One is the mitigation part, and the other is the adaptation part. And under the climate change, as it goes down through the exposure to the adaptation process, as it goes down, the policy emerges. And when the policy comes in, we have human interference issues. And under the mitigation process, here there's a lot of engineering part also. Agriculture specialists would be required for mitigation. But in the adaptation part, a significant role could be played by the geoscientists. You have an excellent opportunity. It's for you to encash. The opportunity is open for you. I'll show you, this is just for your, understanding what basically where India lies in terms of emissions, in terms of per capita emissions. I'm not talking about the total. I'm not talking about the total tonnage of greenhouse gas emissions. That's a different scenario. I'm talking in terms of per capita emissions. Look at the figures that we have. India is significantly small. European Union, Russia, Europe has significantly huge amount. Look at the world average. This right line shows the world average. I'm sorry. You have a significant emission levels by these developed world and the developed economies, and the developing economies and the underdeveloped economies from the parts of Asia and parts of Africa. You still have very low per capita emissions. Now, this gives you an advantage for designing a project, and we have a process which is known as the Clean Development Mechanism, CDM. And there are voluntary markets also. That will require a complete workshop to do for that. But as a geoscientist, it's very convenient. You can capture this opportunity to develop the projects, to have hands-on experience, and you can develop the business models. The industry is open for you. The agriculture sector is open for you. The financial institutions are open for you. I have no answer why we are not able to create jobs for it. You become the job creators. I emphasize on it, capturing these opportunities. There's another element of the climate change, that is the disaster reduction. You are trained in remote sensing, you understand the technologies, you are fully aware with the GIS and the MI in this package. Can we not go for the disaster warning? Can we not assess the vulnerabilities? Look at the vulnerabilities component, look at the assessments, emergency communications. These are the elements where you can definitely develop the projects, where you can have a win-win situation for creating jobs. The more jobs you are creating is basically you are creating a job for your own self. Well, let us see it in a very pragmatic way, that how things will be developing. Are we searching for jobs? That's a gone era. It's a different age. We are in an emerging economy. We have an opportunity. I'm sharing with you the things that there's nothing new. These technologies are not new for you. It's only a question of reorienting the knowledge that you have and cashing upon and capitalizing on these informations and the database that you have for your own development and for the development of the community. Well, you can have the early warning systems. You can have the risk information. You can contribute in terms of impact assessments. Consequently, you can develop a plan for the preparedness. And definitely, wherever you require, you can pool in the resources for all the technical support, including the emergency communication. I have deliberately put a red marker against the risk information. Look at the elements that would be required for the risk information. Info on terrain, the topographic and the geomorphic, analysis is required. It requires a complete terrain evaluation. It requires a complete, the surface water body situation, the forest, everything, the land use, all elements would be required when we are going for the terrain evaluation, when we are going for the information on the terrain. Look at the water resource requirements. We need a complete information on the hydrologic informations. I have my all contemporaries and my colleagues were highly specialized in the domain of hydrology, working with the Central Groundwater Board and other agencies. Now, here is an opportunity as a geoscientist where you could reverse this knowledge for utilizing it to a disaster reduction role by, pooling all this database and the information. It's a small common sense and a management technique that would really, change the scenario. You will definitely, as I pointed it out, that you will require, what the earth scientists would be required to do is a significant level of interaction with the policy. In my very first slide, I said you will have to interact with the policy and the decision makers, whether it is at the community level, at the panchayat level, or whether it is at the topmost country level, whether it is in TIO, or whether it is at the state level, the development boards, you will have to interact with them. These are the trainings, so these are the orientations, you can start doing it. And this is an excellent opportunity. I hope these talks would be able to trigger some thought processes with you. Here, just as an indicative feature, I have tried to put in some, prepare a metrics for you to indicate what would be the opportunity. Suppose if you have these agencies, you have the climate change domain, and then you have the rural development domain. If you take up the NGO and the development sector, jobs related to and the opportunities in terms of providing the consultancy services are extremely high, and vis-a-vis the rural development is very, very high. As I shared, there's an international and the national financial institutions supporting the NGOs and the development sector. Where are the expert hands who could do this? You are the person who could really make the significant impact. It would be an excellent idea if some experienced geoscientists and the young geoscientists join hands. That would really make a significant move. And an academic center, maybe the Department of Geology, Patna University, take some initiative. Really, we could, and this would be the right time with the Platinum Jubilee celebrations going on. We start some initiatives in this directions. So I leave this point for further discussion. Then we have the corporates. Look at the corporates. For climate change, they are smart enough. They understand the whole scenario. They have used the clean development mechanisms, the voluntary markets to capture, we have two categories of countries, Annexure 1 and Annexure 2, as per the United Nations Framework Climate Change Conventions and the protocols, different protocols that we have, where we have the developed countries, developed economies in one category, and the other category where we have the developing economies and the third world and the developing economies and underdeveloped. Now, what happens is that we have a tremendous amount of fund flowing and for the high-cost technologies as well for increasing the carbon and reducing the greenhouse gas emissions. You are going for the mitigation process where the industry is intelligent and smart enough to capture this opportunity for fundraising. And that's exactly where the climate change opportunity creates business opportunities with the corporate world. And that's exactly where you can have a job opportunity. You have a real shortage of trained hands. There are people who have some engineering background and they are good. That doesn't solve the problem. We have personally been interacting with engineering graduates from so many universities, but that's I'd like to share with you the people who have been trained in geosciences and have been exposed to the CDM mechanism and the assessments for the climate change and for the CDM mechanism for getting the carbon credits. They are doing far better than any of the other hands in the corporate world. It's an opportunity for you. Similarly, you have the corporate worlds have their own CSR. Now, if you are talking about the climate change, if you are talking about the adaptation, if you are talking about the agro-based productivity-linked corporates, the opportunity is there for you. What is that you can offer for these, corporates? This is an opportunity where if you, for instance, I'll just share with you one example. If you just take the production of tomato, it depends upon a certain temperature and certain package of practice when the cultivation goes there with the farmers. And if that regime is disturbed, you have a trouble. Now, many of the corporates who are into the products which is based on tomato depend on the farmers' produce. Now, your contribution could be that you come in with greenhouse gas friendly technologies, with the MIS systems, and offer the corporate that despite and irrespective of the climate impacts, the productivity of the farmers would be high. Then there's an economic impact. Corporates would be happy. It would be a win-win situation for the farmer as well. Who's doing this? And this is exactly the role that you have to play as a geoscientist, and you can definitely do it. And as I said earlier, I'll be reiterating the fact that the geoscientists would be doing it just to simply emphasize and underline, and I'm trying to ensure that in the young brains, this is engraved that yes, I have the potential, I have the strength, and I have the knowledge to do things. And you have it. Believe me, you can do it. And it's only a question of effort whether you are doing it, whether you are putting in the time, whether you are putting in the energy for doing this development process, whether you are trying to create a job or whether you are looking for a job. The whole mentality will change. The whole approach, the whole psychology will change. And this is exactly where the things will change with dynamics of the dependence on in terms of economy, in terms of climate change, in terms of rural development as an interlocked element. Multilateral agencies. Well, multilateral agencies are, so for instance, the World Bank, or whether it is the IFAD. I've been handling IFAD projects with the International Fund for Agriculture Development. What a geoscientist would be doing there? Let us understand this. We have an element of climate change. We have an element of rural development. Look at this multilateral agency. You have an opportunity for the climate change, where you have opportunities for the rural development, and these would be domains. I don't know how many of you have really been, looking at these opportunities at the international levels. And these were the uncharted areas where I have personally been putting in effort, and I found excellent opportunities and getting the return. New avenues, new teams for trainings for students. And this is where you can also interact with the centers of excellence and academic institutions. You can also interact with the CII, and the other industries and the Chamber of Commerce, where you can offer these services in a way where it would be a win-win situation for the entire society. Financial institutions. Let me talk about the financial institutions and the investors. No investor is interested in putting down his money. It may be an angel investor, it may be any investor into a risky proposition. They are basically looking for people who could really be down to earth, dealing with the situations. You have people who are strongly trained in climate change and rural development, who are helping these financial institutions, minimizing the risk. But you have, as a geoscientist, an opportunity where, with your little effort, really come into the play for these financial institutions and investors as well. NABARD, for instance, of course, it has a very limited opportunity, but if you're working with NAPCOMs, again a subsidiary of NABARD, this creates a lot of international business, and where you can probably have an opportunity to interact with them. Academic institutions, as I have been mentioning in my previous statements, that it had, job as such would be very limited. The services that you may provide, it has some opportunity. So it totally depends upon the personality, whether you are able to convince, whether you are able to take over, whether you are able to, pool in the financial resources and the academic institutions. These are the smart ways that you will have to really take things on. Gone are the days where liquid things will be coming in. Don't expect that to happen. If you want to create a mark, like reducing the carbon footprints, if you have any behind your footprints, you will have to create, you will have to innovate, you will have to look in a dynamic way. What is the risk for young people? Don't be afraid of the risk. If you can't take risk, of course, calculate lots of volumes. If you're able to do that, that's excellent. And academic institutions would be the right place where you can pull in. You know, it's very easy if you're putting in academic institutions and the industry and the community from the farming community and moving, funding agencies, for example, the DSTs or the NABARD or anybody, where you were able to satisfy their mandates. So you have to bear in mind that for the funding, whichever agency that we approach or I approach, their mandate is completely satisfied. So you will have to work, and this is a multi-thematic, domain interaction and the project, the climate change and rural development, all this go hand in hand. And if you are able to solve this problem intuitively in a dynamic way, as a creativity element, you will definitely be tremendously successful. And the last person to believe, though I spent almost, I'll say 2.5, close to 3 decades with the government in different capacities, but every time I walked out of the government sector, for a simple reason that I cannot be that now motiveless. Creativity comes to a barrier. I'm not negating it. Government has its own mandate. It has its own elements of significance and contributions to make. It is guided by different parameters. So there is a constraint. In turn, what happens is if you're looking for the job opportunities and the consultancy services, they have a complete, a constitutional process to follow. And it all goes by a very stereotyped of process that has to pass through. So I'm not a person who believes that this will be the domains where you will have a lot of consultancy or job opportunities. So that's very limited. Of course, if you're a very traditional geologist, you may have it with the Water Resources Ministry, with the Central Groundwater Board, or with the oil industry, with the ONGC, or with the GSI, or with the state directors. Of course, that is there. You can definitely go ahead with it. But if you really want to go beyond the bar, it's beyond that threshold, well, you have the other agencies and you have to really look at a different way of things happening. As an entrepreneurship opportunities, you will have to work on the consultancy services where you will be involved in project design and development, where you will have to be involved with the supply chain management using the technology applications. Now, when we talk about the project design, you will have to be thoroughly armed with more subject field of specialization, well equipped with GIS, MIS, and remote sensing technologies. You should be very well equipped with your geochemistry and the soil analysis parameters. You should be very well equipped with the water resource dynamic hydrological studies and calculations that you need to do. You have to be thorough with it. So you have an opportunity. Supply chain management, you have the technology. Apps coming up. There are a number of apps which is now available for farmers from end to end, I'll say, from farmers to corporate levels. But let me tell you, whichever way I have seen those apps, I am thoroughly dissatisfied because really need to make significant contributions. I'll say I will not use a strong word like dissatisfied, but it is an evolving stage where you have a lot of opportunities for the supply chain management. You can use the technology, whether it is remote sensing, GIS, MIS, to really solve the problem, address the issues and concerns of the corporates and the farmers as well. With the drone technology coming in, this supply chain management, the entire gamut will change. I think the academic centers will also have to evolve evolving opportunities in terms of technology. Now you have the innovative agriculture interventions, as I mentioned earlier, that you will have to look at the adaptation processes, where you can really suggest, where you will have to look at the soilless systems for the urban areas, where you will have to look at vertical farmings, and this is the place where the geoscientists can play a significant role in designing the systems. Hands in hand with the agriculture expert. I'm not saying you're substituting the engineering or the agricultural expert, but you are creating a job for yourself.
And you are in a position to support the system. So this is where exactly your role comes in. For the resource assessments, I'm working in a number of agencies where they were going for all the participatory resource organizations and level with all the NGOs, with all the CSR, these resources understanding the soil, understanding the water, surface water, groundwater resources, understanding the land use pattern, there was a drastic difference if a trained hands like geoscientists go and start working with the standard processes, trained in developing the maps, if you are trained in using the GIS and MIS systems, nothing more is more brilliant than using these tools for resource assessment. Creation of disaster resilient infrastructure supporting library. But this is very important. What happens? Let me take an example from, say, North Bihar. Every year we have a cycle of flood. We have, in some areas, we have a cycle of, droughts, impacts. Now, can we not design a system where it is disaster resilient? These are the areas and support the livelihood, support the sustainability. These are the areas, these are the domains which remains open for you to answer. I'll leave these questions with you to think. Here are some of the new things that are also involved in these type of projects. For example, the biofloc system. Everybody knows that in river, pond, tank, तालाब में कहीं पर भी हम लोग मछली पालन के बारे में सुने थे. इस सिस्टम के बारे में देखिए, बायोफ्लॉक सिस्टम. स्मॉल टैंक्स 10,000 लीटर की एक टैंक जो है सर 10,000 लीटर की है, इसमें आराम से मछली पालन कर सकते हैं. The return and the economy suggests it is far higher than the normal fisheries practice. Now, water that is required, it has a particular scientific parameters in terms of its chemistry, in terms of its pH, in terms of n number of parameters that is required for, and you can always get a hands-on support from the fisheries expert, or you have short programs being conducted for this type of high-end technology where you could do and you could support the landless laborers. Imagine if you are able to get 5 marginal and small farmers or 10 farmers or the landless people and do this, and if you are able to do it, I bet you will be lakpati ho jayenge aap saal bhar mein just with the biofloc system. Are you trying to create a job or you are looking for a job? The question is for you to answer. Similarly, with the hydroponic part, you see the vertical systems come up. It looks very capital intensive, but there are innovations which are जुगाड़ के लिए तो हिंदुस्तान मशहूर है ना. हम लोग तो अपने तरीके से इसको हम लोग कॉस्ट रिड्यूस कर सकते हैं. Let us be innovative. Let us find ways, and we have ways where even in urban areas you can get fresh vegetables, organic, with organic contents and free of pollutions. And what more do you want for your health and creating jobs? If you are able to supply fresh vegetables in the niche area with, I should say, premium costs in urban areas, well, you'll be creating many jobs. Thank you. I'll be happy to take, if you have any thing which you would like to discuss with me, please.
Thank you, sir, for your very, very insightful and useful presentation. And may I request a few of the students, if you have any questions, any clarifications, any guidance from Deepak Srivastava, sir, you are most welcome. We'll take 2 questions maximum, and then we'll have the formal vote of thanks. तो विद्यार्थीगण, आप हिंदी अंग्रेजी जिसमें चाहें आप अपने सवाल या अपनी बातों को रख सकते हैं. इतनी अच्छी प्रस्तुति हुई और अर्थ साइंस के स्टूडेंट्स के लिए वर्तमान समय में और क्या अपॉर्चुनिटीज हमारे लिए उपलब्ध है कहाँ और किस दायरे में हम लोग अपनी चीजों को सोच सकते हैं, ये आप के लिए महत्वपूर्ण है।
किसी भाषा में बात कर सकता हूं मैं आपके साथ, कोई दिक्कत
हेलो,
नहीं
गुड आफ्टरनून सर।
आपको लगता है कि आप डिस्कस करना चाहते हैं, प्लीज बोलें। I'll be happy to
afternoon,
take
sir.
questions from the younger generation.
Yes, we'll take 2 questions, sir. So one, गौहर जी आप पूछ रहे हैं?
यस सर।
हाँ,
गुड आफ्टरनून सर। सर पूछना ये था कि वो हाइड्रोपोनिक्स जो होते हैं तो उसमें न्यूट्रिएंट्स कैसे डाला जाता है, मतलब केमिकल फॉर्म में या फिर उसका कोई जियोलॉजिकल मेथड है, उसके सिलसिले में कुछ पूछना था।
हाइड्रोफोनिक्स के बारे में आप बात कर रहे हैं?
यस सर।
इसमें बेसिकली देखिए 2 चीज होती है इसमें। जो हमारी वाटर होती है उसके एनालिसिस की जरूरत होती है कि आखिर उसमें हमारी कंटेंट क्या है। दिस इज एग्जैक्टली वेयर एज अ जियोलॉजिस्ट आप बता सकते हैं। दूसरी होती है कि हमारी जो क्रॉप होती है उसके लिए कुछ न्यूट्रिएंट्स और माइक्रो न्यूट्रिएंट्स की जरूरत होती है। उसको पढ़ाने के लिए जैसे मैंने अंडरलाइन किया कि इसमें हम लोग मीडिया यूज कर सकते हैं, जैसे परलाइट है या वर्मिकुलाइट है, जो कि इसको कौन पहचान सकता है? मेरे आपके सिवाय जियोलॉजिस्टों के अलावा कौन पहचान सकेगा? बढ़िया कौन डील कर सकता है? तो कहने का मतलब है कि इसमें मीडिया की जरूरत पड़ती है और इसमें कंट्रोल तरीका से वाटर को वेस्ट नहीं करते हैं, रिसाइकिल करते हैं, सो दैट द न्यूट्रिएंट वैल्यू जो है उसको हम लोग कांस्टेंट मॉनिटर करते हैं। और इसकी 2 तरीका है, या तो केवल लिक्विड रखें या मीडिया में रखें, ये पॉसिबल है। और इसका अगर डिटेल डिस्कशन चाहते हैं तो मैं आपके डिपार्टमेंट में अपने फोन और ईमेल डेफिनेटली छोड़ दे रहा हूँ और इस पर डिटेल डिस्कशन कर सकते हैं। मैं आपको रेफरेंसेस भेज सकता हूँ जहाँ आप डेवलप कर सकते हैं। प्लीज रिमेंबर, मैं फिर से इसको दोहरा रहा हूँ, क्योंकि अगर आपका जो बेस है अगर जियो साइंस का ये स्ट्रॉन्ग नहीं होगा तो फिर हमें आगे परेशानी होगी।
सर एक और क्वेश्चन है कि उसमें अभी तो सिर्फ साल सब्जी उगाई जाती है, लेकिन अगर हम चाहें तो फ्यूचर में धान गेहूं भी कर सकते हैं उसमें, व्हीट एंड राइस वगैरह।
मतलब हाइड्रोफोनिक सिस्टम से?
यस सर, उसमें पैडी या व्हीट ये किया जा सकता है।
हाइड्रोफोनिक वो आप टेक्निकली यस, लेकिन इसमें बेसिकली बहुत कैपिटल इंटेंसिव हो जाएगा। इसमें अभी हम लोग बहुत सा काम कर रहे हैं, जो बहुत से टीम, बहुत से कंपनियां, बहुत से एकेडमिक सेंटर्स काम कर रहे हैं, लेकिन अभी ये वेजिटेबल्स में, फ्रूट्स में और फॉडर में बहुत सक्सेसफुल हुआ है। ग्रीन फॉडर क्या होता है कि मिल्क के लिए, मिल्चिंग रूमिनेंट्स के लिए, जैसे कि स्मॉल रूमिनेंट्स में जैसे गोट है, या लार्ज रूमिनेंट्स में जैसे आपके जो कैटल आते हैं उनके लिए ग्रीन फॉडर की अर्बन एरियाज में या सेमी अर्बन एरियाज में और रूरल एरियाज में भी, जहाँ की खास करके जैसे अगर ये बिहार यूपी का जो बेल्ट है ग्रीन फॉडर की बहुत जबरदस्त प्रॉब्लम है, तो ये बिल्कुल इकोनॉमिकली वायबल है। हम खुद मैं इंटरैक्ट कर रहा हूँ, क्योंकि मैं एक पर्टिकुलर कैपेसिटी में कृषि विज्ञान केंद्र रामकृष्ण मिशन का मोराबादी रांची में है, हम लोगों ने ये डेवलप किया है। इकोनॉमी हम लोगों ने वर्कआउट किया है, परफेक्टली फिजिबल है और अब हम लोग चाहते हैं कि ये लोग अधिक से अधिक लोग करें। एज अ जियोलॉजिस्ट मैं यहाँ आपको एक चीज सजेस्ट करना चाहूंगा कि अगर आप जो उसमें जो न्यूट्रिएंट वैल्यू होता है, वो जो सॉइल होता है, मैं बार बार इस चीज को दोहरा रहा हूँ, अगर उसको आप ऑप्टिमाइज करेंगे तो हमारी जो डिविडेंड है, जो रिटर्न्स है, वो हाई हो जाता है, बोथ इन टर्म्स ऑफ प्रोडक्टिविटी एंड इन टर्म्स ऑफ वैल्यू। तो वो आपको, इसलिए यू हैव टू बी अ गुड जियोलॉजिस्ट फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल, और उसके बाद आपको ये चीज करना होगा। और कभी कभी क्या होता है कि ये जितनी आजकल जो टेक्नोलॉजीज डेवलप हो रही है, ये एक सब्जेक्ट की बात नहीं है। इसमें यू नीड एन एग्रीकल्चर एक्सपर्ट, यू नीड एन इंजीनियरिंग एक्सपर्ट एंड यू नीड अ जियोलॉजिस्ट। ये कम से कम जो है मिलेगा, ये टीम बनेगा, तभी आजकल की टेक्नोलॉजीज। अब सैटेलाइट या रिमोट सेंसिंग से जो हम लोग असेसमेंट करते हैं, तो क्या केवल जियोलॉजिस्ट सैटेलाइट डिजाइन कर लेता है? नहीं, उसका इंटरप्रिटेशन पार्ट हम लोग का है, सिग्नल प्रोसेसिंग हम लोग करते हैं, इमेज प्रोसेसिंग करते हैं, उसका इंटरप्रिटेशन करते हैं, लेकिन जो हार्डवेयर डिजाइन पार्ट है वो तो कोई इंजीनियर ही करता है। तो ये एक मल्टी थीमेटिक और मल्टी डिसिप्लिनरी और इसमें वेरियस टीम्स के एक्सपर्ट्स की जरूरत होती है। तो ये ना समझें कि इसमें हम सब कुछ मैं ही अकेले कर लूंगा।
लेकिन इसमें हमको राइट टीम बनाना है। आजकल तो स्टार्टअप के लिए गवर्नमेंट इतना सपोर्ट कर रही है, अब जियो साइंटिस्ट के लिए इतनी जबरदस्त अपॉर्चुनिटीज हैं एनवायरमेंट में, क्लाइमेट चेंज में, कि अगर ये सारे लोग मिल रहे हैं और इफ यू हैव योर फ्यू यंग फ्रेंड्स विद अ स्टार्टअप यू कैन डू वंडर्स।
थैंक यू सर।
हम लोग एक प्रश्न और लेंगे अपनी ओर से, और एनी स्टूडेंट अंडर ग्रेजुएट और पोस्ट ग्रेजुएट, हाँ किसी का हाथ रेज दिख रहा है, कौन है, आप पूछ सकते हैं। यस, अनुभव विशाल।
Yes, sir.
विशाल आप प्रश्न, हाँ
Sir, there is a term, sir, aquaponics, sir. Sir, can we use it in place of hydroponics? Will it be more beneficial or useful than hydroponics? Because, sir, we can simultaneously do pisciculture and farming together in aquaponics, and it will be less economical too.
If I because the signal was not very clear, let me repeat. If you are talking कि hydroponics और fisheries को merge करके,
Yes, sir.
इसका एक्सपेरिमेंट थाईलैंड में बहुत किया गया है, और इसमें देखिए क्या होता है कि जो फिशरीज के साथ कर सकते हैं हाइड्रोपोनिक्स में, इसकी जो वाटर क्वालिटी जो उनके साथ जो रिक्वायर्ड होती, और हाइड्रोपोनिक्स में जो वाटर क्वालिटी रिक्वायर्ड होती है, तो वो आपको बहुत नैरो कॉन्स्टेंट में डाल देता है कि आप किस तरह का क्रॉप ले पाए। वो इट्स अ वेरी डाइसी सिचुएशन कि किस स्पीशीज के फिश लेंगे और किस क्रॉप को लेंगे। तो दैट मैनेजमेंट हैज टू बी वेरी क्रिटिकल, एंड यू विल हैव टू कंसल्ट कि हम किसी एग्रीकल्चर एक्सपर्ट या किसी फिशरीज एक्सपर्ट सबको कंसल्ट करना पड़ेगा। लेकिन जियो साइंटिस्ट हम लोग डेफिनेटली ये बता सकते हैं कि ये जो पानी है इसका क्या सिग्निफिकेंस है, और इसको हम इसका जो पीएच है, इसकी जो केमिस्ट्री है, वो हम कैसे कंट्रोल कर सकते हैं, ये तो हम लोग बता सकते हैं। इसलिए मैंने पहले ही प्रश्न के जवाब में ये कहा कि हमको एक एग्रीकल्चर एक्सपर्ट, और अगर आप ये फिशेस करना चाहते हैं तो इस एक्सपेरिमेंट को किया गया है, लेकिन इसको इकोनॉमिक टर्म्स में ये बहुत इनकरेजिंग रिजल्ट नहीं आया है। लेकिन अगर आप यंग इनोवेटर हैं तो आई ऑलवेज लुक फॉरवर्ड कि इसको हम लोग डायनेमिक्स या चेंजिंग सिस्टम्स में हम लोग कर सकते हैं, ये पॉसिबल है। आई नेवर से नेगेटिव आंसर, ये पॉसिबल है, लेट अस एक्सप्लोर द पॉसिबिलिटीज।
So, as we have witnessed that the traditional earth science is now into a new domain, and there are so many significant which taken place. So students of this generation, they may think over of many of the challenging tasks where the earth scientist can put in their labor and put in their energy to get to develop for the development of the country, for the development of the society, and that will be one very, very significant input from the students. So we are really very thankful to the distinguished alumnus of this department, and I request Shri Bhavuk Sharma ji, the young faculty member at the department, to propose a vote of thanks and express his gratitude on behalf of the department for the wonderful presentation we had just now by Deepak Srivastava sir. Bhavuk ji.
Thank you, sir. A very good afternoon, everyone. Honorable Speaker, Shri Deepak Srivastava sir, a renowned national and international geo consultant, respected Professor Atul Aditya Pandey sir, Head Department of Geology, Patna University, respected Professor Rabindra Kumar sir, Head Department of Geology, Patna Science College, eminent alumnus, geoscientists, faculty members, and eminent alumnus, geoscientists, faculty members, and my dear students. It's an honor for me to give me a vote of thanks to our honorable speaker on the behalf of our dynamic department on this event of Platinum Jubilee Celebrations online lecture series. Sir, you have delivered a very valuable presentation on the topic climate change and rural development vis-a-vis entrepreneurship opportunities for earth scientists. It is one of the best lectures ever I have seen, which has encouraged our young scientists, our young students to become geo-entrepreneurs. I think it is very wonderful term that today we are discussing. Sir, your lecture has encouraged our young geoscientists in the best manner by explaining the importance of geologists in the overall growth of the society. Because you have dealt with the energy security, food security, most important topics that are required, that needs to be taken up today. You have discussed climate change and rural development, the two most important domains, fields of the present time, in the most easiest way. I think that every student have taken a lot of interest in discussing all these things while asking number of questions. We have also discussed the important role played by geoscientists in policy making and highlighted three major issues of geomatics, national resource management, market development, and product management. Sir, I am very thankful on behalf of my department for your precious time for delivering this highly valuable lecture. We are very thankful to you, sir. In the last, I would like to thank our respected head sir, Atul sir, all the faculty members, teaching and non-teaching staff, particularly Umarji, for making this lecture a success. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Bhavukji. And it's a really great honor for us that under the Platinum Jubilee Lecture Series, the sixth lecture, we have our distinguished alumnus present here in the department. So we are privileged to have with us here, and physically, myself and Dr. Rabindra Kumar, who graduated, we express our gratitude and present in honor of Dr. Deepak Srivastava sir, a small memento which we have developed on the occasion of Platinum Jubilee. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry, thank you.
Lui e te le matematiche.